Hi everyone, this is Oyoyo here, bringing you a build guide for the blue-green variant of the Quick Draw dot deck. This build can be run in many variations of blue, and links to these variations can be found in the description below, along with full run showcases. The beauty of this build is that you can spam one button while concentrating on your movement and pressing the other keys. In the blue-green variation of this build, because there's a mana regen card available to us, we no longer need to stack spark recharge as much and can put more of our equipment stats into utility and secondary recharge and proficiency. And this means that we can have 100% or almost 100% uptime of our utility as well. There'll be timestamps in the description below so you can jump between sections of the video at any time. Unfortunately, because Mana Rig is no longer available, I was not able to compare this build to the previous baselines. However, I still think this is a great option. So as usual, we'll be starting with the artifact section, and the main artifact that we'll be building for is the Implement of Combustion. This artifact adds an additional 10,000 tick damage over time to the enemy whenever the enemy is hit by magic. So to maximize this uptime on the enemy, we are going to go and try and stack our deck with dot spells. The secondary part of this artifact is the chance when an enemy dies with this debuff on them, you get a 10% chance to pull another card, and you can increase this chance by having more creature spells in your deck. So we will try and squeeze as many creature spells in our deck as we can. The next artifact we'll be looking at is the Liquid Foresight. This artifact is quite good because it gives you lesser swiftness, run speed, and reflect whenever you cast a creature spell. So when our rotation hits this creature spell, we'll get this. So this will have 100% uptime. We also gain chromatic sorcery potency, so plus sorcery damage for all types. Now in this slot here, there's not really any other artifacts that I've found that can boost our green mana sorcery proficiency, and so I'm not too sure what to put in this slot. But if you've got the paid artifact Suffering Curiosity, you can use it here. Having double run speed's pretty fun. And if I don't use that, I use Cursed Idol, just to cast the greater vulnerability on the enemies when I'm casting spells. If anyone has any suggestions on what I should add to this slot, please put them in the comment section below, and I'll try it out and pin it to the top. The final three slots we're picking just for the green mana sorcery proficiency. Here we get 250. We also get health globe proficiency. Here we get another 250. And here we get another 250. So we're stacking green mana proficiency, and we only want to use green mana proficiency damage spells. So now we'll move on to the deck. So as in the other variants of the build, we have our 3 big benched creature cards. You can swap these out till you can get the right balance of mana, green to blue, for your deck. Because the green spells that we'll be using generally don't use very much green mana and use mostly neutral mana, I've decided to go for a 7 green and 5 blue mana pool. And with our 3 creature cards, our 3 benched creature cards, we'll be cycling through all the others at random. And this comes into play for Thought Cadence, where Thought Cadence will let you draw another card if you pull a card of a different type. So because of this, in our random pool, we're going to try and balance the amount of sorceries to creatures and enchants. However, in the green-blue variant of this build, I actually drop out 1 more creature for this card here. So because green can get rampant growth, which gives more mana regen, we actually don't need as much spark recharge, and this lets us put the equipment stats that we would have used for spark recharge into other things. And in our case, we're going to focus on utility and secondary proficiency. And so that led me to adding in this card here,
which you gain lesser swiftness, and your secondary and utility you have twice as fast cooldown and deal additional damage with your primary. If you don't feel like you have enough card draw, I would throw in another creature like Alchemic Thaumaturge. And I wanted to do a shout out to Anthony, one of the subscribers, who's been working with me to identify that this spell does in fact work across all total mana values, and that the assumptions made in the blue-red video were incorrect. So for our other spells, we've got Muse Drake. This one's great with Thought Cadence, because if you pull it after you're using another type of spell, it will replace itself and generate an extra card. The Elvish Rejuvenator is also quite good because it allows you to gain an additional mana, and it's quite cheap. You could also put Alchemic Thaumaturge in this slot instead, so you don't have to run around and pick up the mana. Mana Rig is not available anymore, so generally I just run this all the time and it seems fine. So that gives us a total of 6 sorceries to 3 creatures and enchants. However, I still find it okay, and the ratio is still fine if you have Concentrate in there. It should be noted that in this current setup there is no Rejuvenate or healing spell, and this is because I was finding that with the Necromancer there was enough healing anyway from spell casting. So now with the classes, again we're running with Necromancer. This is for the sorcery potency damage and sorcery healing. And the most important part, the Aether Absorption. Whenever you cast a sorcery, heal for 5% of your max health. With the traits, the most important one is Might from Unity. This means whenever we cast a creature spell, we get lesser might for 10 seconds. Heart of the Iron Will, also really good trait. Whenever you die, you don't die and you become invulnerable and slowly heal up. This can be triggered once every 2 minutes. And in the final slot, we've got Psychic Prowess. However, this will be changed to the Dimir trait when we get it. If you don't have Might Immunity, you can put in Necrotic Burst in this slot. So with the equipment, because we have regen in the deck, we no longer need to stack Spark Recharge as much. And this means we can use those points elsewhere, and we'll use them to try and get more damage out of our utility spell. In case you don't have any of the items that I have slotted, these are the stats that you should look for in your equipment. Now, the most important stats are Utility Proficiency, Utility Recharge, and Secondary Recharge. The Secondary Recharge is only there so that we can activate or get more damage on our utility when destroying our skeletons. The secondary. Now, these are the main stats, and the secondary stats, if you don't have any of those in any of the slots, are Spark Recharge, Health Proficiency, Regen Proficiency, and Soul Steel Proficiency. Now, the gear for chest piece that you want, this one right here, this gives you, whenever you have a full spell hand and cast a spell, you gain lesser mana regeneration. Now, this one also has utility proficiency on it, so if you have that, it's really good. For the headpiece, we're going with this one here, and this gives you green mana buff rating, and that means that when we cast our buffs on ourselves with the green mana, they'll last longer. These gloves are really good for our build because the main stat reduces the class ability cooldown by 5% whenever you kill a foe with your class ability. So if you kill a foe with your utility, this will be triggered. And it also gives secondary recharge and utility recharge. The boots, we're still going with the Adjudicator's Greaves. However, there is quite a few options in the boots section, and in general, this build actually has a lot more flexible options in all the artifacts. But we're going to still stay with the Adjudicator's Greaves because they give utility recharge as well. For the jewelry, we're going with the Medallion of Hope. This gives you 2 lots of utility proficiency, and we're also going for this necklace, which gives you more secondary recharge, and whenever you draw a spell you gain lesser swiftness, so extra move speed and secondary recharge. So overall, this build has much nicer equipment than the other versions of the build. I'll just now give a brief demonstration of how to play the build. Unfortunately, we no longer have Mana Rig as a baseline to test against, but I'll just try it on this here. So you just spam the one button, you keep the three main creatures on the bench, taking them out of our one button spam rotation, and as you'll see, I can pretty much keep my utility and secondary up all the time, running over the enemies in melee range, essentially just jumping from pack to pack, standing on top of them. Utility always off cooldown. We've still got some Mana Surge we can use there, but it's not necessary.
I hope you enjoy the build or gain some inspiration from it. If you have any questions or suggestions on how to make the build better, please leave a comment below. If you would like to see more in-depth content, please like and subscribe. Thanks. See ya.